In this episode, we learned that the Geneva Conventions do not apply to the world of One Piece.
They're pirates.
Yeah.
They're pirates, Jim.
This is the intro song to the podcast King of the What Now. Join us as we go on a journey, going to talk about pirates, battle and adventure. We think we're pretty funny. We hope you will too. Luffy, he's gonna be the king of something. We weren't really listening. Sorry about that. Hopefully he'll achieve his dreams. Yeah.
Hello, fellow adventurers of the Grand Line, and welcome to King of the What Now. We're here to discuss the anime One Piece. I'm Joel, longtime fan, and recovering from a deadly poison gas attack.
And I'm Curtis, not a very good chef.
Perfect. Also, the one who poisoned me with his bad food. There we go. It wasn't a poison gas attack. It was a food poison related.
I'm colorblind. I just assumed the meat was done. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Now, before we start this episode and get into the summary of the episodes we just finished watching, I want to talk to you about something strange that's been happening lately, okay?
Okay.
So, as you know, we started this podcast together.
Wait, am I supposed to be getting paid?
The paycheck's coming in the mail for $0.00. Thank you for your time. But as you know, as we've talked about off air, you were invited onto the show specifically for your sweet voice. Mm-hmm. Thank you. But as I've been going through and editing the episodes, which is part of kind of my job description, my contributions, I've started to notice in the last couple of episodes that a mysterious voice has been showing up more and more frequently. And there's only one possible explanation, and that would be
ghosts.
Yes, exactly. There must be a ghost haunting the audio equipment, because as you and I know, we're the only two people in this room. Clearly, there's no animals that you can hear in the background, and there's no other person who might be adding their input as audio. So, I've prepared a little ritual, all right?
Okay.
In a purely audio format, which is very good because I don't want to have to do a silly, hand motion.
Is that what all the candles and the blood is for?
Yes. Well, the blood's for something else, but we can use the goat head as part of the ritual.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay. Speak, apparition!
I believe Luffy can be the Hokage.
That was a reference joke, everyone. Very good, very good.
Do you want to do that bit again?
No, we don't need to do the bit again. Okay, so...
Thank you, Ghost.
Thank you very much, Ghost. Be gone! That's going to be in the next hot mixtape that we release, available on Patreon at the end of the... But no, I do want to kind of clear up a couple of things about this show, because you and I talk about the show offline, not while we're not recording, and then we reference it during episodes, and I don't know if our fans are going to be able to keep track of all that. So I just want to take a moment to kind of talk about some of the general rules that we've kind of come up with and some of the other things, and now might be a good time to address that.
Okay.
So first off, we did create a Patreon as soon as we created the podcast. A couple of days later, we created it, but it is very empty, and if you visited there, you're probably very disappointed. We are going to be working in the meantime to try to come up with actual rewards for the different patrons.
Good job, you listened. Hooray!
By the time this episode comes out, I hope that it will be better and it will be more representative of the sort of thing that we can offer to people. One thing that Kirst and I have talked about, and we're going to do, it won't be released it'll be probably in another month or two. We'll give you details as we get closer to it. But we're probably going to start doing longer bonus episodes that aren't about watching One Piece, but discussing where we are in the series in relation to potentially other shows. So the first bonus episode that we've discussed is going to be we're going to aim for about an hour-long episode, and it's going to be a discussion of the One Piece anime and the Pokemon universe, including the anime and the games in kind of like a crossover setting. And that will only be available to Patreons patrons, gosh dang, patrons at the $10 mark, I think is what we've agreed on, at the second tier level. So if you like the idea of One Piece and Pokemon combined together, or you just like me and Curtis's humor style, that's what we're going to be offering, that sort of thing. And we are going to finalize other details and make those known in another, probably, announcement episode, not in a main episode. Does that sound good to you, Curtis?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Curtis mostly expects just to answer my question, so if I spring a surprise on him, for example, I didn't tell him we were going to talk about all this stuff, he gets a little shy. He doesn't quite know how to respond to things. So I am taking over this podcast for now. It is just the Joel hour until I finish these announcements.
All right, I'll be back. Oh, no, my microphone.
Okay, the other thing that I want to talk about is I came up with this idea of watching One Piece with someone who hadn't seen the series before, and as I mentioned in our episode 0, I also watched the series with my wife, and it created this dynamic where there were 3 of us, where one of us really knew the series really well. The one who knew the series really well also had a significant other who got into the show and is very much into it, but didn't start watching it until they were brought in, and then we have a newbie. I found a podcast called Piece Together that has 3 hosts, one of which is a veteran who's seen the show before, who has a significant other that they drew into the fandom, and then a third friend who is completely new to the series and has been kind of trying to get into it off and on for the past several years. This is a complete coincidence, and the fact that both of our podcasts released a couple of months apart from each other is just incredible. I could have done a better job of searching the internet for other people who are doing content similar to us. At the same time, I do believe that we bring slightly different perspectives. But I just want you to know that if you like our content or you need more One Piece stuff, feel free to check out this other podcast. And we are in no way trying to copy them, and they are in no way trying to copy us.
Joel?
Yes.
Do you like alternate Curtis better than me?
No. We've spent too long together and we've played too many video games for me to be able to play someone else at the same thing. If we invite them over and I play video games with alternate Curtis, I can't remember their names at this exact moment. This is why I shouldn't improv things. But maybe they'll eventually one day replace you. But
Okay.
what I will say is that they are covering... They came out a little bit earlier than us, and they started with the formula of doing several episodes at a time, so they're further in the series than we are currently. Mm-hmm. So I am listening to them, and I think they're pretty good. I think you should check them out. But I'm not going to watch any of their episodes that cover stuff past where we have been. So if there are similarities in our jokes, it's probably just because we're similar people. I really am not trying to step on any toes or anything like that.
Also, I think they watch quicker than we do.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
I know they're further ahead of us, but they also started before us. So it could also become that we diverge significantly as the show goes on.
Yeah, it's very possible. But yeah, if you're a fan of this show or you're a fan of that show, we want everyone to get along, because the whole point of this podcast is to try to get people into One Piece and to celebrate it. And they seem to have a similar theology. That's not the right. Anyways. The point is,
we all pray at the same altar of One Piece.
Let's get along. Let's not start any crazy fights. The other thing that I want to point out... Oh, no, I have 2. I'm sorry. 2 things. I'll try to be quick about this. This is going to be 10 minutes of me just babbling. That's great. 2 things. 1, there is a third member of the podcast, kind of unofficially. This show will always be me and Curtis at the core. Very likely. However, my wife loves One Piece and is often in the room with us when we're watching the episodes, and so when we're getting the viewing data, the cold intros, the bad summaries, the stuff we put at the very beginning before the intro to the podcast episodes, sometimes her contributions slip in, and it's hard to tell whether she wants to join us full-time or not. She seems to be a little camera shy, but she also seems incredibly willing to join in the conversation. So she might show up, she might not, but when we refer to the secret third co-host, that would be my wife. Lastly, at the beginning of the series, I wanted to try and keep the show about One Piece as much as possible, so anytime Curtis mentioned something like, oh, this is just like Full Metal Alchemist, this is just like Pokemon, I would glare at him, and you probably would be able to hear it a little bit in my voice, but it was mostly nonverbal communication, and eventually got to the point where I would start saying, reference joke, and now we've started to reference that reference joke as another reference joke. But I'm going to try and lift that ban a little bit. We should still focus mostly on One Piece, and we should focus on, if we make a reference to some anime, we should probably, unless it's a really famous thing, we should say, by the way, that's from, I don't know, Rick and Morty, Full Metal Alchemist, whatever other stuff that we like. But I'm going to try to be less strict about that rule from going forward.
So we don't have to stay on target anymore. I can put away the targeting computer.
Yeah, you can beam me up, Scotty. You can Detroit Smash.
No.
You can what?
No, wait. You just put a Star Trek reference on top of my Star Wars reference.
Yeah, it's just all references. That's the thing.
Okay.
I'll go dough, and I will, gather the pieces of the Triforce. Oh my god, my nerd culture it's failing me. We'll get some one-up mushrooms, and we'll do a barrel roll. We'll do all of those things.
We have to do a barrel roll.
Yes. Okay, so we just spent a long time with me just talking about nothing, so now it's time for Curtis to do most of the talking and me to be quiet. So we just finished watching 4 episodes of the anime. As always, I have the list, but it's in a different tab, so let me find it. Here we go. Episode 27, The Cold-Hearted Devilman, Gin, the Pirate Fleet Battle Commander. Episode 28, I Won't Die, Conclusion, Luffy vs. Kreig. Episode 29, Outcome of a Deadly Battle, The Spear Inside. I hope no one got a spear inside of themselves. Anyways, episode 30, Departure, Sea Chef and Luffy travel together.
Wait a second. I thought the first title was...
The Cold Heart. So the One Piece.
It's different on the
Yeah,
because it was like the cool-headed, cold-hearted
devil. Yeah, exactly.
On the one we were watching.
Okay, but we finished 4 episodes, which finishes out the Baratier arc and brings Sanji's character arc to a conclusion. For those of our fans who are not watching along, could you give a kind of overview of these episodes?
Okay, so we had a fight between Gin and Sanji.
Well, first, so the episode starts out at the very beginning with Gin with a gun to Zeph's head, and Pearl is still fighting.
Oh, I forgot about Pearl. So yeah, Pearl gets taken out pretty fast. I mean, to be honest, I'm trying to remember who takes...
Gin does.
Does he?
Yes. So Pearl's about to attack Sanji, and Gin comes up, and he has these cool iron ball weapons. They're basically hammers, but you can also kind of, spin them, I guess. And he just smashes through that army, and everyone's like, is Gin turning on the Dawn Krieg pirates? Which is part of his character arc that we're going to talk about. It's the only reason why I wanted to make sure that detail was in there.
I don't remember why, but I guess we'll talk about it. Anyway, So after that, then there's the fight between Gin and Sanji.
Yes.
And then we've got a... So that ends with... I'm trying to remember... Oh, it ends with Gin kind of coming out on top, but then refusing to finish Sanji off because previously Sanji had given him, food when he was hungry.
Sure. So the battle concludes, and Gin doesn't want to kill Sanji, and he's like, hey, Dawn Krieg, I almost called him Zeph. But anyways, please let me disobey your order to kill him just this once. Please, buddy. And how does that go over?
So Dawn Krieg, who is Gin's commander and the head of the pirate crew, right? It's like, how dare you disobey my order, right? And then he is going to kill him using a poison gas attack. So everybody else in the pirate crew puts on their gas masks, and Gin accepts his punishment and throws his gas mask into the sea, right?
Correct.
I think all of the chefs just kind of leave the area so they don't get affected.
Yeah, some of the chefs go inside and close the doors. That's Patty, Carne, and Zeph, all of the named chefs.
Yeah.
All of the no-name chefs just decide to go underwater because the gas is not going to go down there.
Yeah. So then, last minute, Luffy grabs 2 masks, one for Gin, one for Sanji. He takes them off the face of 2 pirates, but he doesn't get one for himself. Last minute, right when the attack's about to come, he finds a mask that it turns out came from Gin, who gave Luffy the mask that Luffy had given him. Yes. Anyways, the point is that in the end, everybody survives the gas attack. The only person who gets poisoned is Gin, but he hasn't died yet.
Yeah, and Zeph reasons that there's probably, like, some kind of antitoxin thing in the gas mask, even if you've already breathed it in. So if you really quickly put the gas mask on him right after the explosion, he'll probably be okay. So that's that logic.
Which is, like, not really how gas masks work, but okay.
One Piece logic.
Yeah. So anyways, at this point, Luffy's like, I'm going to kick your ass, Don Kreig. And so he goes over, and they start fighting. And it's a really awesome fight, because he had previously tried to get over to Don Kreig. Don Kreig kept shooting projectiles at him, and Luffy would run back, right?
Because he has that sweet armor with all the hidden weapons and stuff, yep.
But this time, he runs over there, gets hit by these pointy projectiles, so he's, susceptible to piercing damage. And then goes up, and then Don Kreig protects himself with this giant spiky shield, and then Luffy just punches straight through the spikes and hits him. And then the battle starts, and they're going back and forth, and Don Kreig eventually pulls out his ultimate weapon, which is a exploding spear. So it's like a spear that has like a bomb on the end that explodes every time it hits something.
Which he uses more like a hammer. He doesn't use the stabby part as much, but anyways.
Eventually, Luffy breaks the pointy part off, which, I mean, like you just said, he doesn't really use it anyway, so it's like, meh. But they keep fighting. Luffy gets the upper hand. They're in the middle of the air, and Don Kreig captures him in a net, right? It's a steel net. Oh, this was after Luffy finally breaks through his armor, so he's exposed. Don Kreig is
He keeps punching Don Kreig, and Don Krieg's like, it's useless, but then it breaks, and he goes, oh my god!
Yeah.
But Don Krieg's philosophy in battle, because again, most pirate fights are one person's ideology against another person's ideology, Don Kreig believes that it's not really the strongest who wins. It's not necessarily the person who can do more push-ups or take more pain. It's the person who survives. If you kill your opponent, it doesn't matter if it was a sneak attack, a cowardly attack, if it was 4-on-1, if you use some weapon, that's all that matters. So he's basically saying, look, you broke my armor and I took a lot of damage, but if so long as I can put you in this net and drag you underwater and you drown, by my definition, that means that I won.
I would put the caveat that, because he specifically says it's like, it's the strongest who wins, but he doesn't mean physically strongest. He means like, it's whoever comes out on top, like you were saying. It's like,
so long as you're the survivor, that means you are stronger.
Yeah. So anyways, his plan is to try to drown Luffy. Luffy uses an attack that I've been told we will not see again for a long time, called the Gum Gum Giant Gavel, in which he twists his legs together. I think he'd done this previously with his arms for Sledgehammer. Mm-hmm. Twists his legs together, and then grabs Don Kreig by the head with his feet, and then he slams him into the batier on like the deck. Mm-hmm. Or no.
Baratier.
Baratier, that's it, thank you. I knew I was missing a letter in there. But then he still ends up in the water, trapped in this net, right? So Sanji dives in after him to go save him. Eventually gets him out of the netting and takes him back up.
Saves him, yep.
Yeah, so he survives. The end result is Don Kreig is defeated, gets up, tries to fight some more, but Gin knocks him out and takes him onto a ship. Gin, who only has a few hours left to live because he refused to take the time to fully recover, goes to the Grand Line to just like as his final like desire.
Yeah, Don Kreig's dream had become his dream, so he's like, I don't know how long I have left, but I'm going to the Grand Line, and that's it. I'm just going to dedicate myself to this path.
Yeah. So he's going there. At this point, we're left with Sanji and Luffy on the boat. Luffy wants Sanji to come with him. The rest of the chefs want Sanji to go with him, but Sanji refuses to leave. They try different tactics to get him to go, and then finally Sanji realizes that everybody else wants him to go because they want him to be happy, and he finally agrees to go, so they have a tearful goodbye, and then Sanji and Luffy and... Oh, I forgot to mention...
Yasaku, yeah.
Is it Yasaku?
I don't know. I'm bad with names. Catherine pointed out during the episodes that I literally was pronouncing Gin's name wrong for the last 3 episodes, even though they kept saying it on screen. So I'm going to call him Yosaku. Okay.
Basically one of Zoro's friends from previously.
Yeah.
He had shown up in the mouth of a shark, which is a whole other thing. It was like, hey, we were hunting Nami. I know where they're going. Let's go get them. Or we're going to go meet up with the rest of the crew. So it's the 3 of them, Luffy, Sanji, and
Yosuke.
Zoro's friend,
Zoro's
who we're
friend.
calling Yosaku.
Yeah.
Um,
And they didn't see where Nami went, but they were basically like, okay, she was going in this direction, there's really only one place over there. By the way, it's really scary and you will definitely die if you go there. Or we could all die, something like that.
yeah. So they load up on supplies as they go. We get a quick flash of Nami heading towards the island.
Big imposing building all in shadow, and that's clearly where she's going.
Yeah. And also we get a bit of her, like, obviously feeling bad about taking the ship and hoping that maybe after all this is over, they'll accept her back into the crew.
Yep.
Though it seems as though that she does not believe that she doesn't believe it's a likely outcome, either because she doesn't believe she'll survive all of this or whatever's about to happen, or they won't take her back. One of the two, right?
Sure.
So, and that is everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. There's some interesting stuff with Gin and Don Kreig and Sanji and Zeph. Like, all of them have moments throughout the battle that is interesting and reveals more about their character. But as far as summaries go, like, no, you nailed it. I think that we got just about every major detail that we needed.
Good. I forgot about the shrinking head, but that's just a little tidbit we can keep to us if you want.
I wrote down a list of, like, other things that we could talk about as we were watching, and it was on there. I showed you this list earlier.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, no, I don't remember which episode it was. There were a bunch of people floating in the water throughout the battles, and one of the guys in the background changes facial expressions, and apparently when he had his mouth wide open, they chose to draw his head a little bit larger.
Sure.
And so when he closes his mouth, his whole head shrinks by, like, I'd say, like, it shrinks by, like, 20% or so.
Yes.
And I saw it out of the corner of my eye, and I asked Joel, I was like, did that just happen? And he was like, what are you talking about? So we rewind, and we're sitting here watching, and then it happens, and Joel freaked out.
Sometimes I have a very strong reaction to things. I've recently been playing, what's the one?
Oh, Bioshock?
Bioshock. And every once in a while, if I turn, there's an enemy right in my face that wasn't there 2 seconds ago. It's you should stay away. But
I was worried that the neighbors would call the cops. That was very, very loud scream.
All right, so let me go back to our usual questions. What did you think of this group of episodes?
So it was good. I very much enjoyed the fight between Luffy and Don Krieg. That was probably the best fight with Luffy in it that we've had so far.
Agreed.
I like the Sanji arc. I can see why you like Sanji. Like I guess it's not the Sanji arc, the Baratier arc.
The introduction of Sanji, yes.
Yeah, because his backstory is interesting, and I like the dynamic between him and Zeph. Because they kind of have this, like, School of Hard Knocks sort of, like, teaching style that Zeph has for Sanji, and they still know that they love each other because, Zeph is still Sanji's father figure, but they still treat each other like crap the whole time.
Yes, their favorite thing to do is to insult each other. Yeah, they have a moment where Zeph and the rest basically realize that Sanji wants to go, but he keeps saying, like, I have to stay here. I can't ever leave until basically never. I'm just going to stay here for the rest of my life. And so they decide to try to give him the message, please leave. But instead of saying that, because direct communication probably wouldn't work, and because they're all these burly men who hide how they're really feeling, they decide to put on this big show of, like, there's no seats for you at the table, sit on the floor. We're eating your soup, and ugh, that's really gross, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed these episodes as well. I think that my favorite moment, if I had to pick one from all of them, is the part where Zeph basically... Sanji went... Oh my goodness, where do I start at the story? Zoro fights Mihawk in the previous podcast episode we watched, and as he's getting cut and he basically lets himself be almost killed, Sanji yells, like, why don't you just throw away your pride? It's easier to live than to, like, die for your dream. And Zeph he went to the Grand Line. He seemed to be a fairly successful pirate, and he has a similar philosophy to Luffy, fight for your dream. And so he's trying to basically tell Sanji, like, watch this fight. Luffy is one of the good ones, and you'll notice that even though Don Krieg is well known as the strongest, he might not be able to beat this new kid because this kid has heart and determination, and he has quote unquote, the spear inside. It was not a literal spear. No one got stabbed through the chest and they had, like, the spear in their chest cavity. It was the metaphorical spear of Luffy's determination. And in the end, that's how he was able to punch Don Krieg through the porcupine cape. That's how he was able to run through the spikes. That's how he was able to break the exploding spear that was being used more as a hammer, because he just keeps getting up, no matter how hard you hit him, sort of thing.
And there were so many good animations of Luffy being determined.
Oh,
it's
yes.
like there was the one when he was running over to finally engage with Don Krieg. There was a really good expression on his face. But then after that first hit, where Don Krieg was on the ground and it had Luffy standing there and the wind was blowing, it was really good.
I think they might have, like, tried to put a little bit more energy into the animation of this fight, or maybe there was more source material to draw on, because it was very well done in many ways. They had the awesome overtaken music, which I believe we've discussed before. It's great. This is also, I believe, the first fight that we've had where there are people commenting on Luffy's philosophy during the battle. Like, when he fought Morgan, no one was there saying, like, oh yes, Luffy will win because he has a strong heart. And during the Buggy arc, there was no one being like, I think Luffy is smarter than... you had a little bit of it during Kuro, the butler guy with the knife hands, but this Zeph is awesome because he, like, recognizes that Luffy is a good one, and he goes, hey everyone, watch this guy, he's really awesome, he's the hype man, and I love that. What do you think will happen in the next episode? Was it telegraphed for you clearly enough?
It was telegraphed in multiple ways, Joel.
Yes.
Well, first of all, we have the obvious, like the stinger at the end of the last episode showing Nami going towards the island.
Yeah.
Also, we're watching this on marathon mode, so I saw the title for the next episode.
Oh, man.
But, yeah, I mean, it's going to be Nami's arc. Because, I mean, she's obviously an established character at this point, but we haven't had an arc for her, like, on her backstory and all that yet. So I think we'll get to that. Given how these things have been going, it's probably going to be a longer arc.
Have you noticed the exponential curve of the length of these episodes? Well,
that's probably why, I feel like the series has been going on for, 600 episodes, but it's probably only had, 10 arcs. It's just the last one was, 300 episodes long.
There is actually a limit to how long they get. There's 2 or 3 arcs that are the long ones, but then they're immediately followed by more shorter ones. So they don't keep getting longer.
Okay, that's good to know, because I just had this fear of, eventually it's just going to be okay, this is episode 123 of them talking about their treasures.
Yes. So Nami's going to this place. She also mentioned... So we saw Nami twice in these 4 episodes. At the end of the 3rd episode we watched, and at the end of the 4th episode. And at the end of the 3rd was when she was crying and being like, I wonder if they'll accept me as their friend afterwards. Yeah. And she says something like, I think we're almost there, and she mentions Bellamere. Mm-hmm. And we had the subtitles on, so you could see that it was a name, because the Japanese had the honorifics. So in the Japanese, it was Bellamere-san. Do you have any theories or suggestions who Bellamere might be? You've now gotten a couple of characters who foreshadowed, like Zoro saying, I'm looking for a certain man, and end up being a guy who cut him across the chest. Yeah.
So it's hard because Bellamere, well, first of all, Bellamere doesn't, easily fit to a gender, right?
Okay.
I could see that being either male or female. So it's obviously someone she has a personal connection with.
Okay.
Whether it's a family member or a love interest, I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
But I'm assuming that's why she's going back to the island. She probably has some, and also she's had this goal of having of collecting enough
100 million
treasure. Yeah, right. So I'm assuming that she must have enough now, either between what she's collected on in treasure that she's kept on the ship, and maybe with the ship itself or something like that.
Okay.
That she could pay whatever, so...
Sure. We will definitely get answers to at least some of the Nami mysteries coming up, and I look forward to that. Okay, going back to our episode questions, did any of these feel like filler?
I was briefly, for the last episode, when Yosaku showed up in the mouth of a shark.
Yes.
I was briefly like... This is almost filler. What's going on? And then it ended up being somewhat important. It was just weird.
Yeah.
So no, it's not filler because all the fights mattered. Oh well, I take that back. All the fights had like all the major fights. Every episode had something major going on.
Okay.
I'm still not a huge fan of the fight with Pearl, just because like they kind of feel like a throwaway character.
Okay.
It's just it's like just to fill space.
Okay.
But like the character themselves didn't have much going on other than the fact that they're very like unique.
Okay. I would say, from a writing perspective, Oda wanted a character where you could show that Sanji can hold his own type of thing. He ends up fighting Jean, but that's different because you can't show Sanji going all out because they have a bit of like a kind of a friendship going on sort of thing. Yeah. And so I'd argue that like Pearl showed up to kind of show off Sanji, but then how do you get a guy who can kick really well to break through the metal? It doesn't seem like he's strong enough to break the armor, and it helps Gin come to the other side. So I would agree that he ended up being inconsequential, sort of, but in a way he sort of set up the arc in a way that you could explore some of the characters a little bit more. Yeah. Okay. Out of these groups of episodes, you know what? We're at the end of an arc, so who would you say is MVP kind of the entire Baratier arc?
What would you do if I said Zoro?
I mean, he had a pretty good fight with Mihawk.
Yeah. It's hard because it's been a while since we watched the first part of the arc. I'd say...
You can pick from these 4 episodes, too. You don't have to just... Okay.
I know. But I mean, I feel like these 4 episodes, you know, like the climax of the arc, so the MVP should probably come from them.
Sure.
It's probably Luffy, actually. Because I feel like while it's Sanji's arc, Luffy did the most, and it was a lot of like Sanji becoming convinced to go with Luffy after watching Luffy fight, right?
Yes.
So, I would say Luffy based off of his fight with Don Kreig.
Okay. There's also, at the end of the last podcast episode and the last episode we watched before today, Luffy smashed it looked like he attacked the fin of the restaurant, and I asked you to speculate on why, and you thought that maybe it was a strategy to kind of like make it harder for the enemies to fight. And in this episode, or this group of episodes, we find out he basically just wants to destroy the ship because that would make the pirates stop attacking. But I actually think it's deeper than that. I think he sees the ship as something that's like holding Sanji back. He's using it as like I'm gonna hide behind the ship and say, I can't go to East or All Blue, I can't look yet because I'm still here. And so Luffy is like, well, it's just a ship, who cares? Which is kind of funny from a guy who cares so much about his straw hat, but I think the difference is that he doesn't hide behind the straw hat, and he wouldn't say like, I can't do this thing because the straw hat's in the way, sort of thing.
Yeah, I would say though that while I see it, the restaurant is kind of Zeph's thing, right?
Okay.
So like I would make the argument like it's Zeph's treasure, so
okay,
it's a little bit. I don't know if he intended to actually destroy it or just threatened to destroy it, right?
Yeah.
Because I think he still wouldn't want to, like, you know, upset Zeph, so.
Agreed. So, yeah, I think that it was all just kind of part of that same thing you're talking about, though. That Luffy basically, this arc was sort of, hey, Sanji, you're really cool. Check out how cool I am. We could be cool together. And it was just, that was part of the argument, I guess, sort of. Do you feel like anything, obviously Nami going to this island has been happening for a while, but did anything else about this seem like it could become relevant later in the series?
Well, so I guess for one, Don Krieg actually isn't dead.
Sure.
So Don Krieg could always come back.
And Gin specifically said, we'll see each other in the Grand Line. Who knows how well Oda is on having characters follow through on their promises.
Yeah, well, and I'm assuming because there was kind of understanding that Gin was going to die soon. Yep. So I'm assuming that Gin won't come back. But I could see Don Krieg coming back. I mean, unless something happens, you never know.
Sure.
Let me think. There's always the possibility that Zeph could return from just these last 4 episodes, right? Not from the whole arc.
Yeah.
Because obviously...
Mihawk.
Yeah, Mihawk will come back.
It sounds like a no.
Yeah, no, I mean, other than the fact that there's a possibility of some of the more major characters of these episodes returning... I nothing like huge stood out to me.
Okay. Yeah, and
It's pretty well self-contained.
I would agree. I think that there's some good stuff coming up in the next arc, if I remember correctly. I remember the general points. I don't think I remember, like, all of the specific things that are said, but I think the next one will have some pretty good moments of exploring the larger world, but only giving you a glimpse until later you can go, they mentioned this person, but we've never seen them, or that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, other than the fact that they keep talking about the all blue, but that's tied to Sanji.
That's probably ended the series, I would argue, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, he's traveling in order to fulfill his dreams. It'd be strange if Luffy became the Pirate King and that was, like, the halfway mark of the series. The rest of it is just him doing bureaucracy, with Nami being the treasurer and Zoro is training the new recruits and Sanji's getting all the chefs ready.
Well, I mean, never mind. That's too much reference.
Okay.
I don't want us to become a show about Mistborn.
Check out Brandon Sanderson now. Fantastic fantasy author. Okay, let's see. I think that about does it for the questions that I ask every single time.
I wanted to discuss something.
Okay.
Okay, so when you eat a devil fruit, you lose your ability to swim.
Yes, and the sea hates you, apparently.
Yeah, I guess so. Which we can discuss that in a second. Luffy, his abilities, he's made out of rubber.
Uh-huh.
He can kind of expand himself in that, right? So I'm wondering why he couldn't just make himself, like, buoyant. Just take in a lot of air. If he really wanted to, because I think it's obviously he can kind of, like, adjust the shape of his body a little bit. He could make himself look like a rubber ducky and just float on the sea.
So I think that the official, if you wanted to look at, like, how this magic system works, the sea drains them of their strength. That's why they can't swim, because they literally, their arms and legs stop being able to kick. And so I think in order to inflate himself, he'd have to hold his breath in, which involves using the muscles of your abdomen type of thing. And so I think as soon as he touched the water, I don't know if you have to be submerged. I think you do. So maybe if he was inflated before he hit the water. But I think once he got in deep enough that he started to lose his strength, it would all just go...
Can he swim in a lake or a pond?
No water. I don't think.
So not only does the sea hate him, but every single lake and pond in the world also hates him.
Yeah, watch out for the puddles. If he ever tries to jump on a puddle that looks really shallow, but it's actually really deep, he could die.
Could you imagine if he landed face first in a puddle and then couldn't stand up because he lost all his strength?
Or a bowl of soup. He's just like... Here's an interesting thing that will be explored at some point, and this is a slight spoiler. They don't lose their devil fruit abilities, though. Luffy is always made out of rubber, so even though he's underwater and he's basically passed out, you can still grab him and he'll still stretch.
So, but he couldn't stretch himself, like, under his own power.
No, yeah, he couldn't, like, try to reach out and have his arm stretch and that sort of thing. Okay, so that was actually one of the other questions that I had on our little list of notes. You are doing a very good job remembering, but one of these days we're going to forget a very important point, and so I need to write these down. Okay, so one thing I do want to talk about, so Don Kreig is this famous pirate who I think had 100 crews underneath him at some point, and Geen is his second in command, the only one he trusts to oversee his stuff in his place.
Yeah.
And Geen is the ruthless, he's called a demon, he's cold-hearted, he's cold-headed.
Cool-headed.
That's cold-headed isn't a phrase. But he's all of these things. And yet, when he's fighting Sanji, he starts crying. And when he has the gun against Zev's head, he's like, please don't make me do it. And at one point he even says, Don Kreig, let's just give up on this restaurant altogether. Did you find that character arc, that switch, to be believable?
So within the episodes, I understand. It's hard for me to believe that their act of kindness that one time would overcome what ought to be like a career of working underneath this other pirate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he said, like, I always looked up to him in that, right? So it seems like a sudden switch. It makes sense if you just look at it in the narrow perspective of this arc. But if you start, like, trying to reason out, like, with it on the larger scale, you're like, wait a second.
Yeah. I agree. I think there's a little bit of suspension of disbelief. In One Piece, it seems like your determination is the only factor in your strength. Like, Luffy, I think, is actually physically stronger because he has such strong determination, which isn't quite how it works in the real world. You can be determined and keep going to, like, the gym and doing push-ups, and eventually you'll get stronger, but we don't really see Luffy train, so it seems like the determination translates into 100% physical strength, and so I think that it's kind of the same thing with this act of kindness. You wouldn't think that one act of kindness could have such a profound impact, but first off, maybe we're just cynical as all heck. And secondly, maybe it really is kind of this sort of Sanji's kindness somehow, like, bleeds into his food. And so somehow that was that. Also, it's just a great way to show off that Sanji's core element seems to be kindness. I would argue that Sanji, as a person, acts kinder than Zoro or Usopp as counterpoints, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see, what else do we have on this thing? Oh, yes! So, we here are very adult, and we enjoyed buggy balls for no reason. It has nothing to do with the fact that that's a funny word. But now we have another character who fights... We have another character... We have another character who fights with iron balls at the end of these kind of sticks. They're basically maces, but they're without the chain a little bit.
They're like nightsticks.
Okay, yeah.
So that's the things that a police officer might have, right?
Sure, okay, but with really heavy things on the end of them.
Yeah, on the end of the longest portion.
Yes. So, which do you think is more powerful, a buggy ball or Gein's iron balls?
You know, I'd say object only, the buggy balls. But with Gein at the helm of his iron balls, I'd say the iron balls. I bet he could probably knock a buggy ball out of the air with his iron balls.
Okay. Now, they do explode, so I don't know how heavy, how dense the iron would be, and if that'd be able to continue the momentum and keep the explosion away from him. But I agree. Especially, the buggy balls also have to be reloaded, and they apparently have really long fuses that could just be put out with your hand by a determined pirate. But I think that Gein is a more dangerous opponent than Buggy if you were to fight either of them.
Yeah.
Suppose Buggy could take you out from a distance, but in short range, Gein would destroy you.
I believe we also need to talk about how many buggies Don Krieg would be. I don't know if we need to do it for Gein, but we need to at least do it for Don Krieg, like the ultimate bad guy of the arc.
Okay, so the final bad guy of the arc, do we assume that he has his armor on him and all of his weapons?
Yeah, you have to.
Okay, so full power Don Krieg.
Oh, but then if we're assuming that, then does Buggy get his buggy balls? Or is it just Buggy fighting him?
I think it's what you have on your person. So I don't think that Buggy would have the cannon strapped to his back, but Don Krieg always, as far as we can tell, wears that armor.
Yeah. Okay. And I feel like that's too, he doesn't have, like, a devil fruit power, and he doesn't have any, like, special fighting ability, I'd say. It's all about, like, his gadgets. He's Iron Man.
Well, and we didn't see him fight without the armor, really. I mean, he did the net thing, but there was a couple of times where he did things that, like, are superhuman in strength. He punched through, like, this really thick mast of a ship really easily with, like, a single chop, and in a previous episode, he caught the boat that the Patty and Carne were operating, but I don't know if he's actually that strong, because, spoiler, there are people who are that actually strong on their own, but he was in the armor, so I don't know if it augments his strength. Yeah. So let's just assume he's fighting at full power. They both walk in at the end of an arena, and neither of them has the element of surprise.
Okay, so we're doing, consecutive buggies first.
Consecutive buggies first, yes.
Okay. I think he could probably take on an indefinite number of consecutive buggies.
Okay, so long as he doesn't run out of ammo or something?
Yeah.
Okay, I could see that, because Buggy is only immune to slicing attacks, and while he does have, like, the spikes that he shoots out, he does also have regular bullets that I would assume would be effective. Mm-hmm. Okay, and how many at the same time? So,
simultaneous buggies, I would say probably not more than 20.
I've got a hot take for you. 500. He would deploy the MH5 gas He would have his own gas mask on. Would Buggy be able to react fast enough? If Buggy detached his lips and they went outside the range of the gas, does he breathe in the air that's by his face or by the mouth?
But here's the question then. Is this cartoon logic where when you remove your lips, there's no longer a hole on your face? Or
I'm
is
pretty
it
sure.
you remove your lips and now there's just a hole on your face without lips?
That is a horrifying picture to imagine in my head. I just want you to know that.
He could detach his head and just...
Yes.
Oh, wow. I just realized Buggy's ability could be potentially very horrifying.
Yes.
There could be blood and bile and all kinds of...
Oda has
stuff.
specifically said that the way that devil fruits work kind of changes such that he wouldn't have to censor anything. So, like, here's the thing. If Buggy detaches his right arm, and then you... not cut, that wouldn't work, but if you shot his wrist of the detached arm, will it bleed the blood from your, like, how does the circuitry work on this? Right? When he detaches his head from his chest, can he still breathe? Does the breathing come in through the neck, or does it come in through the mouth? Does it magically teleport between the...
Yeah, I think we're overthinking
I don't
now.
get this. Okay, so
I guess... So, when we're comparing to Buggies... I like the hypothetical situations, and I like the arena setting. We're going to use that from now on. Do we want to just give him, like, a Buggy power level? So, like, you know, like, he is equivalent to 500 Buggies
I think that's sort of what I was imagining when I asked that question originally.
That's what I thought, and I feel like I started taking it too literally. So, let's just give him a Buggy power level. So, who have we had so far, other than Buggy that we've had? Oh, we did Kuro.
Yes.
Did we do Mihawk?
No, I think we forgot to do Mihawk.
Yeah, I feel like we should wait on Mihawk. I'm assuming he's coming back, and I kind of get the feeling that he is like way off of the scale currently. Like
an indeterminate number of Buggies.
He would be an outlier. I don't know if we should include him.
That'd make a good children's book. An indeterminate amount of Buggies. It would start with someone building some kind of a cloning machine, and there'd be just a bunch of mini Buggies running around, getting into hijinks.
Okay, so I'd say backing up, I feel like Kuro's power level and Buggy would probably be like 10.
Okay.
5 or 10. I don't know. What do you think? I guess we should pick one number.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. Let's say 10. I like that number a little bit better.
Okay, 10. Don Kreig, I feel like... Oh, I guess we have to factor in Kuro's intelligence. So he's probably not too much higher than Kuro. Like, he's higher because he was a tougher fight.
Do you really think Kuro could do anything against Don Kreig, though?
How much time does he have to plan?
You remembered, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, that's a great question. And also, is Django there? Can Django hypnotize him? We could do an entire spin-off series about this.
This is a one-for-one. Now you're getting back into the scenarios again. We're just giving him a power level, man. I'd say Don Kreig... Actually, you know what? So I'd say he's probably like 25.
Okay, I'd give him 50, honestly.
Give him a 50 Buggy power rating?
really am impressed by Don Krieg's armor.
Okay.
Like, without the armor, he'd probably be... he'd be less than Kuro, honestly.
Let's say 40.
Okay.
I'm happy with a compromise at 40.
Okay, that's absolutely
that's
wonderful.
Double what I gave him and only 10 less than what you gave him. So you got the more out of that deal.
Okay, so... I think that about covers it for this episode, but one thing I do want to talk about, again, I play hard and fast with spoilers here. Sometimes I give you little tidbits. Sanji is the last member of the East Blue crew. Mm-hmm. So we now have all 5 core members, and I think that we're going to be able to start doing some discussions. If I wanted to talk about, I don't know, like a spin-off series, like what if they were all police officers, what roles would they play in the Brooklyn Nine-Nine precinct, for example? But, like, it will probably be these 5 members are kind of the core. We can now start getting into what-if scenarios, because we now actually kind of have, like, quote-unquote, a full cast.
You know, I don't want to disagree with the One Piece expert here.
Yes.
We don't have Nami yet.
Okay, that is technically true, but the opening doesn't show anyone else on the Sunny other than we've now met all 5 of the characters, I guess is what I'm saying. But thank you for that correction. You're right. We should strive to be correct in the information we disseminate to people.
I just want everybody listening, acknowledge the fact that I was right. I officially know more about One Piece.
Let it be
than
known
Joel.
in episode 18 that Curtis finally made up for his blunder of thinking that that Eneru was not in One Piece. Or no, that Marco... I'm going to have to go back and re-listen to that episode 0, but there were people that you thought weren't in One Piece that were in One Piece, so... Alright, do you have any final thoughts? And you're free to say that you don't.
I don't.
Okay, that is wonderful. And all right, thank you, everyone. The next episode will... Oh, no. No, we can't go because I have the tradition now of trying to entice people into the next arc by giving a bit of a preview. So I will do that now. Now. In a village overtaken by a monster, tragedy befalls a young girl who loses someone close to her. In order to earn her chance for freedom, a young girl sets out to sea, hoping to be able to bring peace back to her homeland. She has journeyed long and hard in order to make her dream come true. She has even betrayed those closest to her, those for the first time that she might have considered her friends. The Straw Hats arrive in a place overruled by an inhuman dictator and a monstrous crew that have powers beyond human imagination. They have come from the sea, and can they be defeated? During this arc, one of the Straw Hats will die. How was that, Curtis?
Who's gonna die? Don't kill them. I just met them all, Joel.
If you had to pick one person, if you had to sacrifice one of these 5 people.
I feel really bad, but Usopp.
Okay.
Don't feel bad, that's the right choice.
I know it's the right choice to kill Usopp, but it's like, that's like, you know, let's say you have you have 5 people, right?
Okay.
You've got these 5 super strong people, and then you have, you know, one like child over on the side. I'm telling you to kill the child.
You think that Usopp is the caterpillar who will one day grow into a beautiful butterfly, and you think it's tragic to judge him by his caterpillar strength.
I didn't say that. I don't know if he's going to grow into anything beautiful, but...
Wow. Wow, he is our long-nosed boy, and we love him just as much as all of the other Straw Hats, alright?
I'm sorry, Usopp. Forgive me.
It's the hairnet that he wears on his head. I'm not a particular fan of Usopp's attire design. I like his character, but his outfit is kind of meh in my opinion. Sanji is suave. Luffy's got red that's a bright actiony color, but Usopp is a little bit... I'm sorry, Usopp, for your choice in fashion, you are going to die. Man, this season of what was that called? Next Top Runaways, right?
Next Top Model is one, I think.
But what's the one about the clothes, though?
That's Next Top Model.
That is Next Top Model? Okay. So, man, the season of Next Top Model got extreme. I'm sorry, you didn't make the cut. Anyways, official outro will go here. Have a great day, guys. So ends the next leg of the King of the What Now adventure. We're sad to see you go, but we'll be here next week. If you crave some social interaction with us in the meantime, you can find us on all sorts of different media. We have Gmail, Patreon, and Tumblr. All of those are King of the What Pod. King of the What Pod at gmail.com, patreon.com/King of the What Pod, kingofthewhatpod.tumblr.com. Our Twitter handlers are a little bit different. You can reach me at KOTWN_pod.
And you can contact me, Curtis, at Pirate Co-host. Also, please take a moment to rate and review our podcast on whatever platform you're using to listen. Not only will this help others find the podcast, but your constructive feedback will help us improve the show as we go.
Thanks so much for giving us a listen. Until next time, follow your dreams and protect your treasure.
Remember, it doesn't need to be literal treasure.
Hello, this is Joel from the future. If you're watching the One Piece episodes at home along with the King of the What Now episodes, next week we'll be covering 3 episodes at the beginning of the Arlong Park arc. Those are episodes 31, 32, and 33. Those episodes are called The Most Wicked Man of East Blue, Fishman Pirate Arlong, The Witch of Kokiyashi Village, Arlong's female officer, and Usopp's Death, Luffy, Yet to Land. So tune in, and if you want to watch those episodes before the next King of the What Now episode, feel free to do so.
Also, this is Curtis from the future. The robots have taken over. Please help!